We don't do this. Eric Hunley has the whole monopoly. I don't know who that son of a bitch thinks he is, that he's got this whole monopoly on getting panels of lawyers together. But we should be doing that on our streams, like way more. Like I
did this way before him. I had the big brain panel before Eric Hunley even existed.
And we're live.
Yeah, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. The way you set it up, Eric, I thought he sat there chewing you out and complaining. Yeah, it's a good observation. We should do a rotating monthly panel. I should not sign myself up for anything I might not be able to live up to, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I just love the shout out. Thank you very much. And you know what? Joe's not here today, but I love to close on Joe or open on Joe. Joe's gonna have a good time discovering that later.
He's here even when he's not here.
Yes, Joe's with us in our hearts.
So, what's the good word, everyone?
I don't know. I understand that we have somebody officially running, knocking on doors, got signatures, and will be soon in September 20th, a new member of parliament.
Yeah, no. My name will be on the ballot. We'll start simple. But I got the signatures. Next step is to go to an Elections Canada. I forget what they call them, but it's like an official representative who then goes through your signatures, makes sure that you have 100 valid signatures of people who reside in the district. Then they give you the official okay. As it is now, I'm officially running for the PPC. So I have become public enemy number one to some and public defender to others.
That is so crazy.
That's awesome.
What is it? Okay.
Do you guys see the most recent statements coming out of Justin Trudeau? It's like we're living. No, he verbatim said, "We live in a democracy, not a tyranny. You can choose not to get vaccinated, but don't expect to be able to get on a plane or a train because you're an existential threat to the vaccinated." I mean, this is too much to believe. But look at the purple in the bottom left corner now.
I can't hear. Give me one. Now I can hear.
All right. Go ahead again, David.
Oh, I said the purple boxes, the purple lighting on each of those cubicle things behind you is actually aesthetically quite pleasing.
Thank you so much. Well, we love purple over here, so it works out. The law nerds know it.
I see. The hearts are coming in. I love it.
The tech today is it's giving me a moment. So, hi everybody. Sorry I'm late. I'm not as late as Ricada, so I feel like we're still all fine. Viva, are you in a sauna?
This is another room in my parents' cottage, which looks like a sauna as well. This one is just the lighting is good here, but we might have some kids making noise and running around behind me.
Because I've loved your vlogs on the fly, sitting on a chair in nature, finding a rock. Dirty Winnie the West. It's been amazing.
No, I gotta make him wherever I can, and I think I haven't checked my monthly data usage, but I've got 65 gigs, so I should be safe.
Awesome.
And that's all he's using it for, most likely, because you've seen him ice fishing doing vlogs, haven't you? Oh, he does everywhere.
Oh yeah,
I love that. A vlog on the paddleboard. A vlog in the kayak, a vlog catching a fish while singing "Oh Canada."
I have 27 gigs remaining for the month, but the month resets. Holy crap! Anyways, I might be cutting it close this month. We'll see.
I think you've got 10 days. Something like that?
Recycled on the 2nd, so I should be fine. Hopefully. So, all right. What do we have on the menu, Eric, today?
I don't know. I have been out of town in lovely Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for the past week and not paying attention. So on the menu, I sent you an article on it. I didn't know if you had talked about it, but I definitely would like to. Well, there's a couple things. One, Reuters just reported literally minutes ago that the FBI is leaking. January 6th, we're not finding any kind of what would you call it?
Orchestrated or organized plots among the protesters.
Yep. And it literally just came out. So now the FBI is saying, nothing to see here. Move on. Stop talking about Afghanistan, please. Stop, please.
What's amazing is Karen Strawn, who is an active commenter on our streams, put out a good observation that, they've got 14,000 hours of video footage that they don't want to release, probably because the collective knowledge of the interwebs would identify a few faces pretty quickly based on social media footprints.
Well, yes, because that brings us to you've been covering the Governor Whitmer, and there are very legitimate questions, and people get so angry that you bring it up that for some reason, every hardcore extremist group seems to have an FBI agent or two as a member. Not only a member, but often in the leadership. And if it's not the FBI, we've got the CIA, and they love to jump in too. I don't know if anybody has noticed this, but wow, I'm making a lot of hay on triple episodes on the CIA and Hollywood and the news and families of the CIA. And then we've got FBI and Whitmer. So who wants to place bets when we know that the leader of the Proud Boys himself was an FBI informant?
Who wants to start with this one? Emily, you want to go first?
Yes.
All right. I'll lay the framework of the factual baseline, and we'll get the American lawyers will chime in. But bottom line now, so not only has it been revealed that over a dozen of the people involved in this plot were FBI informants, some of whom were paid like $60,000 over a year or two, that the FBI itself were high-ranking members in this plot, organizing it, training, providing logistics. Now there's a text thread between one of the informants named Dan and one of the FBI agents, Impola, I believe, basically saying, if they suspect that you're an FBI agent, blame a third party, and they refer to someone else in this plot, say that he's the agent or the undercover guy, and I suggest you delete these text messages. And it's like, at some point, you take an unfavorable crowd, like these militants, a militia group, the Watchmen, and you can have whatever thoughts you have about them, but it doesn't mean that you get to set them up and effectively entrap them by inducing them to do something that, but for the FBI, these informants, it doesn't seem like they would have ever done. And I've done a 180 on this in terms of my impression of culpability, and I made a prediction which I think is, less likely than likely that these guys are going to get acquitted on entrapment, because it's becoming increasingly likely in my mind.
And just for everybody, entrapment means not just the government seeing you do it, not just them talking to you doing it, but inducing you to do a thing you wouldn't have otherwise done. So if that fanning the flames did not in fact come from the then president, and in fact came from FBI agents working inside of these groups, that's going to be, for the legal side of it, very difficult. And then you've got people that have sat for substantially long periods of time waiting to get to court on this. So I think that could be an issue as well.
Yeah, I see it as a whole bunch of time served, misdemeanor, time served, very, very quickly, just, shoving these out the door. Maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like, late summer, we're going to see on some Friday announcements that people are just, released, typically Friday evening, they'll just kind of be going home quietly.
I mean, after the election is well over and everybody's talked about this forever.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean that all the gain is there already? Well, I will say one person that has to be happy about what happened to Afghanistan, and that's only partially snarky, but Chris Como managed to come in just beautifully and say,
yep.
While this is going on, let's talk about my brother. Okay, I'm done now. Well played.
Yep. No, that was exactly one of my thoughts after several days of the whole Afghanistan debacle, opening up and getting worse and worse and worse. Hey, Nate. So, and that was one of my first thoughts was like, Governor Cuomo probably picked the perfect time to resign. I mean, I doubt that he knew that this was coming, but he must be thanking his lucky stars, because now everybody's completely moved on and forgotten all about all of those allegations against him. I mean, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people.
I will never forget. This is just one incident after another that shows that we're governed by incompetent fools. And I'm not just saying the United States. I'm looking at Canada as well. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mark Garneau. As far as I know, I say needling, but just repeating the question online. I don't know if the Canadian government knows how many Canadians are still stranded in Afghanistan. Mark Garneau is the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Trudeau government. Not a peep out of him. People are saying he wants to remain quiet until we have all the facts. Justin Trudeau doesn't seem to know how many Canadians are there either, but before worrying about Canadians, is pledging to take in as many Afghan refugees as possible, and from what I understand, has imposed effectively impossible conditions to bring them in anyhow. So it's like you get the virtue signaling points by saying we'll take in as many as you can, but the conditions are so stringent it's virtually impossible. Meanwhile,
you have to have all your papers that the Taliban is stealing. You have to have all your paperwork that's being stolen at checkpoints if you do manage to get out before you can catch. Yeah. It's the incompetence in governance. This is something that my kids and I have been talking about this. Like, we're missing the punk music that would be narrating this time for all of us. I'm like, all of the music has moved to TikTok and none of it's addressing like actual real life, which is kind of disappointing to me. But it's interesting trying to talk this through with my kids, and they're like, wait. My 13-year-old, he's like, so they knew this was coming. Yes. And they knew people were there. Yes. And they knew it would be hard to get people out if this happened. Yes. And they did what? And I'm like, well, right. I mean, could you imagine if this was like, I'm kind of baffled by all of it. The abandoning of not just citizens of different countries, but for the US, abandoning the other countries, Canada, Australia, who relied on our presence there to get their own people out. So now we're burning our friends. And then those who had the courage to work with the US for the last 20 years, abandoning them as well.
Taiwan. Yeah, Taiwan. I hope you're not looking for help.
It's infuriating. And governance takes courage. And there is a marked lack of courage. Governance is not always going to be popular in the short term. Governance is not always going to be exactly what everybody thinks is the thing that hits the headlines right at the moment. But I feel like we're running based on Twitter headlines. Like, I feel like our government's like, okay, as long as the Twitter headlines are okay, we're going to be fine.
I didn't see the soundbite, but when Biden is getting pressed on what's going on in Afghanistan, he says that was 4 or 5 days ago. Like, incompetence is not the word, and we did a stream with the Duran on Wednesday. Not that I expect everyone to have watched it. It was 2 hours of detailed analysis, breakdown, and critique of what exactly went wrong. But yeah, you're dealing with a government that has spent, and I say spent, it might be wasted, it might be pilfered or misappropriated. What was it, $1 trillion? I don't know how many trillions of dollars it was. On
2 or 3.
Say it again.
2 or 3 trillion.
You buy this military equipment that you have now surrendered to the Taliban, operational high-tech military equipment, but it's paid for. And who bought it? The government. Who they buy it from? Government contractors, military contractors. And so the money was well spent and well pocketed by some, totally forfeited after 20 years of sacrificing human lives in order to what you now say was not nation build, but it was always nation building. And you back out in the middle of the night in the most negligent, reckless way possible to ensure that chaos ensues. And then you say, if you're Biden, you blame everybody else and say, well, there was nothing we could have done to avoid the chaos.
Yeah, there is. There was no chaos a few weeks ago. We have been holding the country with limited troop presence for the last number of years. And I don't know how many. I'm not by any means a military expert, but it just seems that common sense would warrant that this was the absolutely ass backwards way to do this. And I don't know anyone in the military that feels any differently except the talking heads that have to try to piece together sentences to not piss off the administration.
Yep. Completely agree.
The corporate press needs to heat off Governor Cuomo because the New York Times still needs to make money off his book. The corporate press makes boatloads of money. Well, here's one thing. I would not. I know people are going to say, you can hypothesize that this might have been whatever the reason to distract from whatever. I would not float any ideas that I could neither disprove nor prove. But yeah, the media is going to run with this, and they're going to run with it. But it seems that they're making money off people who are angry at Biden on this also. So it seems that this is the ultimate unifier. Everyone agrees the Biden administration utterly screwed up.
Everyone agrees this sucks.
No, I mean, because one of the things that's interesting is that there's really two parts to it, right? That people are talking about is their opinion on whether or not the policy of leaving was correct, and then whether or not the actual execution of that was done in any way that was proper, right? Or if that could have been done better. And it seems like that's the thing that everyone's upset about is the second part, not the first part. And it seems like what the Biden administration keeps responding to, my cat, if one of them comes around at some point, I'll be sure to show them off.
Emily has spread too, so.
But yeah, it seems like the Biden administration has been responding to number one, the first part of it, thinking that people are outraged about leaving. And so far, I haven't seen any sort of outrage from anyone that I've seen, any talking heads about, except for, I guess, Bolton. Like that's the one person that I saw that was like, we shouldn't have left. But that's I guess to be expected.
To be expected.
But,
that's career. Come on. It's like,
yeah, exactly. So
this is
a hammer or a weapon.
No,
exactly.
People use the term gaslighting. I think people use the term gaslighting out of context, but I think this might qualify as gaslighting to frame it as though people are angry at the withdrawal. Nobody is. Nobody was angry at the withdrawal. No, people were even praising Trump when he made the announcement. But whether or not you should have been there in the first place, like I said on Twitter, is different from that you don't withdraw in a manner that will guarantee chaos ensues. I think everyone was forgetting the heck out of there.
Yeah.
They've created a more dangerous situation than existed. So that, and it seems that everybody except maybe the administration understands that and is angry.
There's one.
There's a cat.
It's a flying cat.
And sweet.
Yeah. She's healed up quite a bit. She used to have a broken. Oh no, not on there. She's a little freak. She's okay. All right. Well, no, not on the keyboard.
My dog is sleeping. I'm not waking him up until he wakes up on his own. So
yes, mine are sleeping because they were waking me up at 3 a.m. So now they need to rest. I'm going to go wake them up.
Angry at withdrawing from Afghanistan, and anybody who says that now is trying to convince you into what your thoughts were 6 months ago. But to change the date to 9/11, 20 years later, I don't know who anyone thought that would be commemorating. It's all just horrendous. And instead of taking people out, taking assets out, then taking the military out, they did it the exact backwards way. And now they've left two of the three very important things there. Most important are the humans that help, and then not irrelevant are the weapons that are now in the hands of the Taliban. And people are saying, well, good luck flying those choppers. That's not how it works. First of all, those things can be sold to people who know to fly them. But
also, they can hire people. You can hire a pilot, for God's sake.
Oh, they don't have the keys. Well, that's what's gonna prevent them.
That's what's going to deter them. Sure.
Well, and that was one thing that I learned recently, just the other day, was that apparently the air support that the Afghan army was relying upon was manned by contractors, and those were like the first people to leave Afghanistan.
Oh, of course.
It's like the Titanic. It's like the Titanic. The captains are jumping first and leaving all the citizens on the boat.
It just strategically does not make any sense whatsoever. So anyway.
If my volume I'm going to get closer to my camera, to my phone. Sorry.
Yeah. Think about it this way. Great. Yeah, you do sound good. Doesn't this set up a perfect circumstance though, where you say, well, now we need to hire a few defense contractors to go clean up what happened over there and to take care of things. So, you left the door wide open. It's like, what is it? If you can't get through the door, you can always open a window. Well, they left the window open. So there's plenty of opportunity to go pick up materials, to make sure everything's safe, to go behind. We've already put the military
more money because you bungled it. Good. Let's spend more money because things that were avoidable weren't avoided.
That's what we do. That's what we do. Think about it this way: when they leaked all of the information, in the secret database, top secret database, and all that, they dropped the 40,000 plus names. What did they do? They created an entire organization dedicated to protecting names that they dropped to begin with. So our government is fantastic. Only it can screw up and then profit from its screw up because, now we got to hire more people and grow our organization so we don't screw up. Aren't we smart?
This is the oldest trick in the book. The government investigates its own corruption by creating commissions and then imposes new regulation that the government has to operate in order to deal with their own corruption. The government is the only institution that gives itself a raise every time it fails, and it's the only one that can get away with it. They should. Oh, we lost someone. They should all be voted out of office, and they should never be allowed to hold office again. Impeaching Biden at this point is irrelevant. It's useless. All that happens is you get Kamala in there instead, and whatever. It's just utter incompetence, and we're governed by total incompetence. Canada and the U.S. alike, and I don't know how you change it. I don't know how you change it, but it needs to be changed.
Speaking of investigating in itself, I sent you a link on the Durham Probe, which I noticed is actually a week later that he's going in front of the grand jury. Ooh, have you and Barnes talked about that at all?
No, we didn't talk about it last stream. We'll talk about it on Sunday. I don't know what the news is.
Okay, well, there's an AP article from a week ago. Evidence presented to grand jury in Durham's Russia probe. And I was actually like, wait, I thought they blew everything up. Is there? Oh, page no longer exists on AP News. Interesting. Oh, here it is. That's weird. Anyway, I didn't know if you had talked about it, if there was any speculation or anything else, because I don't want to be too encouraged because I'm pretty cynical and jaded.
I know nothing about it. All that I know is that there's nothing to be encouraged about. Here, evidence presented to grand jury in Durham's Russia probe.
Yeah.
Look at that. All right.
And so far, the only charge was that lawyer that didn't even really get a slap on the wrist because he's still going to practice law after suspension, right?
Mm-hmm. Kleinsmith got a 1-year retroactive suspension to the year he left anyhow when he was on parental. And that is it. No jail time.
Which blows my mind. It's like at the minimum, if he, I feel like, isn't that a disbarable offense? He did more than Roger Stone did, and Stone is in prison.
It is beyond for anybody who doesn't know what Kleinsmith did. He was one of the attorneys working with the FBI, filing the paperwork for the 4th FISA renewal of the spying on Carter Page, and he had to check and confirm with the court if Carter Page was an asset to the CIA, because that might explain why he had communications with Russians. He was, in fact, an asset. CIA knew he was an asset. CIA told him he was an asset. And in the email that said he was an asset, he physically removed from that email, to which he was neither a recipient nor a sender nor a CC, removed the words "not an asset," submitted that to the judge to get the 4th renewal of the FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page, and then got caught materially modifying an email to which he was not a party, submitting it as evidence to the court. And he said, well, I believed it was true when I did it. Disbarring.
It's mind-blowing. That's like, it's not like I got the date wrong on the search warrant, which we had a huge debate about with Joe or whatever. It wasn't an error. That was obviously not an error.
It's material falsification of evidence. It should be. I don't think he should go. I'm a bleeding heart Canadian. I wouldn't send him to jail. He isn't a young father. Although what he did could have easily, it could have ruined a man's. It ruined a man's life. It could have gotten people killed, literally, and it could have had. So, permanent disbarment, because that is not just that is an error of judgment that you don't make, but for the fact that you think you can get away with it because you have the power. That, for me, that would have been a lifelong disbarment.
Abuses of power are just so deeply offensive, and it's, I get very salty on my channel. I'm a former prosecutor. I did that for over 10 years. It's something that you take very seriously. As any form of lawyer, but when you're bringing the weight of the government behind what you do, if you do not take that weight seriously, jail is appropriate. It's appropriate. You cannot use your power to manipulate evidence, to manipulate facts. It's just beyond disgusting, and it's more than disbarable for me. So
what's terrible is, I think
Kevin McWater says the motivation refutes his claim of it being a simple mistake. No, he didn't say it was a mistake. He said he believed it when he did it. So all that he was doing was making it more clear for the court.
Right.
Yeah, he was planting evidence. It's the same thing as a cop saying, I know the SOB is guilty, so I'm going to slide some evidence in there. What's the difference?
And you know what? It happens.
That is the same.
No, people are guilty. And you look at them and you're like, I know you did this, but I cannot prove it. And therefore, as a adult lawyer with responsibilities and ethics, I cannot proceed, but I got my eye on you. The next time this comes back around, I know. But you can't just manufacture things to meet what your gut is. That's not how the law works. And it never work.
Agreed.
And I would argue that Carter Page suffered more than Kleinsmith, who committed the actual crime.
Carter Page can never do business again in Russia. He can never do business again effectively. He could have gotten worse because if anyone finds out you're a CIA asset, you're not going to be very welcome in certain parties anymore. But
it's just, I mean, it's something that, and I've seen it within, because I worked in the LADA's office, so it was rare, but it did happen that witnesses, that victims would be assaulted, attacked, and even killed if things weren't redacted properly, if things weren't done properly. It even on a smaller level with regard to like state level prosecution, it is a very real consideration all the time. And I can't imagine anyone working for the government not making that consideration and making that balance and going, cool, we're good with it though. Because it's just, that's an analysis. It's part of everything that you do. So I get frustrated. I get frustrated because in law school, it's like you put 10 cents aside wrong and you're going to get disbarred. And then you live in the world and you practice for a while and you start, looking at the news and looking at things and you're like, how in the fuck is this all happening?
By the way, Emily, funny story. I mean, so when you're a lawyer, you manage a trust account because you put clients' money in trust. Yep. And I don't know how strict your regulation is in the States. It's beyond strict in Quebec. And every independent lawyer, when you go out on your own from a big firm, invariably you get audited by the Bar Society. And I literally, this is not a joke, because at one point in time, when the bank set up the trust account, the interest accrued to the trust account, which the lawyer doesn't own anyhow, as opposed to the Bar Society, which it's supposed to do. It was something like, it was under $1. It was like 43 cents. And I couldn't account for how that interest accrued. And I had to get our bookkeeper in to reconstitute the books to account for the 43 cents extra that I had in my trust account because the interest accrued to the trust and not to the barreau. And but by the way, that could be, that itself wouldn't be an offense, sanctionable, but other people get sanctioned for things, it's more serious, but this lawyer, nothing. And the worst thing is, damn well, he was just the fall guy. Everyone within knew this, the first warrant, the second renewal, the first application, first renewal, second, they all knew it. This is just a guy who takes the fall. Mm-hmm. Nobody else suffers a consequence. And it makes a mockery of the system of justice.
It's why I get so screamy when I talk about Tom Girardi, because we're talking tens of millions, if not more, of client funds that have just like poofed. And the California State Bar did nothing. And until the LA Times was like, by the way, this is really fucking bad, the State Bar still hadn't done anything. And so it's how that money and the State Bar filings, now that they're finally like pursuing discipline, now that he is in a conservatorship, they say he has dementia, and there's all criminal investigations happening in these bankruptcies. Now the State Bar is like, oh, here's a breakdown of the trust accounts, and we don't know where this money was going. Money was just disappearing out of the trust accounts. Thousands and thousands of dollars in the one that they set out as an example that was set aside for the client. I'm like, what is happening? Oh, and in California, this I'm sure will change, but you could operate without malpractice insurance if you let your clients know. So he was operating on contingency cases with no insurance as a sole proprietor, no corporate entity, and now it's all just gone.
Well, Emily, we could ask him, but he doesn't remember.
It's all just gone. It's all just gone. I mean, it's a great plot line on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but it's not great for the clients that have been fighting him for years.
Which is sad because they're already victims, and that's why they're clients to begin with. So they're just victimized by whatever their situation is, that they feel they needed a lawyer, and then they're victimized by the lawyer. Yeah, good times for all.
And those are the ones who could go after him. There are tons of victims who he strung them along beyond the statute of limitations. And when they finally brought stuff in court, the courts were like, no, the statute of limitations. Okay. So this was a no, for me, this was a knowing process where he would string people along beyond the statute of limitations and then be like, whoopsie, you can't sue me.
Good Lord. Good Lord. Speaking of stringing people along, super chat here, going back a little bit, but NATO trains the Afghanistan National Army to fight with air support. Biden turns off air support. ANA crumble. Biden blames ANA. Yeah.
And I see, to bring up another comment that Karen Strawn put on my live stream, where she talks about, news broke yesterday, maybe while you were live streaming, on June 11, Biden administration ordered the defunding and dismantling of the Contingency and Crisis Response Bureau. This was a bureau set up by Trump to provide emergency medical, diplomatic, and logistical support to American citizens overseas. It includes, and you can go read this amazing comments from Karen on my live stream if you haven't seen it.
Karen, you've got to get Karen on a sidebar.
Yep.
We talked about who she is.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to happen.
Okay, yeah. I'd love to have her on too. I mean, she hasn't been around. She's kind of been low profile, but like, I hate to say men's right activist, but that's kind of what she is a men's rights activist, or was known as such. Hung out, did stuff with Cassie J, who did the Red Pill, the movie. Are you guys all familiar with any of this?
The Red Pill movie, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I got some of that.
I'm familiar with the concept of red pilling.
No, but the Red Pill was about how she was out to make a movie, essentially saying, well, standard, the men are evil, and there's problems in adoption and court proceedings and things like that. And it turned out when she went to look, she found that a lot of men are getting screwed every which way but Sunday. They're not allowed to get their kids. They have no real rights of any custody. They're fighting through it all. And she didn't exactly become a full-blown activist. She just determined, oh, wait, there's two sides to the story, that it's not always men who are bad. And then she got canceled. This is like in 2015, 2016, everywhere. I mean, any place she went on, she got the Jordan Peterson treatment. So it's just one of those deals. Anybody who comes up with an alternate view, you're in trouble. But while we're on different views, Emily, can you catch us up on Britney Spears? I think a lot went down since I've last seen you.
Oh, where do we leave off on Britney Spears? Because I talk about it so much. Did we leave off?
I think one of the curators, one of the conservators, the company had withdrawn. Yes. Britney had made a request for her own attorney, and I think she had gotten her own attorney. That's why I think
yes, she did.
A lot has happened since she got Matthew Rosengart. He's a former AUSA, and it's funny because his writing is like a former prosecutor. He just keeps putting the conservatorship in a corner. He is not relenting on that to try to get Britney's father removed. Now people are very unhappy in the Free Britney movement that he has not made a motion to terminate the conservatorship. He is fighting getting James Spears, Britney's dad, out of the position of power with the money. That is the sole purpose of the fight right now. And my perspective on that is he wants to do an investigation into what the fuck's been happening over the last 13 years. To do that effectively, the court needs to still have jurisdiction. So I think ending the conservatorship early is going to remove the court's jurisdiction. If he moves this to federal court, if they start a criminal investigation, it'll be a different analysis. But for now, I think they're trying to retain court jurisdiction so they can start to rectify some of the wrongs and maybe disengorge some of the funds that are going to James Spears. There is a big fight over legal fees being paid to Holland and Knight and others. Wouldn't we all love an hourly billable rate of almost $1,300 to deal with media matters? So there is a fight over this 12th accounting because it seems that Britney Spears' previous court-appointed attorney, Sam Ingham, woke up at counsel table and went, I object to the 12th accounting. I object now. I object. That's what I'm supposed to object. I object. Here I am. I object. So they're still fighting over this 12th accounting. We're now in the 13th year of this conservatorship, and they're still fighting over. Now it's $1.3 million to one of the 4 law firms and a $500,000 legal bill for a line item that is for, quote, media matters. Matthew Rosengart would love to know how that relates to the conservatorship and protecting the conservatorship when it seems to be protecting James Spears' reputation and not the conservatorship. So there is this fight over the 12th accounting and James Spears' removal. Britney's attorney has been asking to yeet James Spears right out of this conservatorship. James Spears' objection to this is that the 12th accounting needs to be resolved. And he's like, I agree that when the time is right, I'll leave, but first we need to deal with the 12th accounting. So his lawyers really wrote a motion saying, until we get paid, we refuse to acquiesce to your request. And that is where we are. There are now media reports coming out from TMZ, which many believe is on the payroll of the conservatorship. They definitely get information before it hits anywhere else. I know that TMZ has relationships with lots of lawyers and judges in LA. It's something I experienced when I was still working in LA. So this does not surprise me at all. When judges were going out to dinner with Harvey Levin after court, I was
Emily, is her accounting audited?
Yes. By the court.
Can you explain? Sensitize to those out there who may not appreciate how much auditing costs. Like, what are the costs of the accounting that they are doing to account for the money that they're taking out of the estate? Do we have any idea?
I don't have any idea, because the accountings are prepared by the conservatorship, and I believe it gets line item under conservatorship kind of costs, but they have to prepare these pretty thorough court mandated under the law accountings that account for everything. But if Britney's attorneys didn't object, the court just rubber stamped them for the last 11 years. So yes, there were these really thorough accountings put together by Team Conservatorship and the company they're working with. She's paying, her dad has 4 law firms that are being paid out under this 4th accounting. And then she was paying all those lawyers. She was paying.
Yeah, you had a breakdown. Sorry to interrupt. How many lawyers was it? Because you had like a breakdown, and I swear it was not like some lawyers. It was like a football team of lawyers that she's paying.
At least. So it's her dad has 4 firms of attorneys.
I don't understand that. That's nuts. How does he need 4 law firms? For one.
Well, I'll field this one, Emily and Alita. You'll tell me if you think I'm right. They may not use all 4 at the same time, but I suspect they're 4 big firms so that they conflict each other out in terms of representing Britney. So this might be less about simultaneous 4-firm legal work and more about making sure that Britney can't go to any one of these 4 firms, who I suspect are reputable, right or wrong.
Could be.
Kind of. I've suspected that as well, but they actually do work. One was to deal with litigation in the family law court, because Britney still has a custody order in family law court with regard to her kids. One was to deal with civil issues, because they got restraining orders over people that were in her life prior to the conservatorship and still have litigation going on with that. And then 2 litigation firms to deal with the conservatorship. One making more money than the others. She also pays roughly $500,000 a year for her court-appointed attorney. She also has a conservator of the person, and they have an attorney. Her mom pays for her own attorneys. So Britney's mom is paying for her own attorneys, which is great.
How refreshing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's because it's only the conservator that is allowed to have their fees paid out by the conservatorship. So either the conservator person,
appointed counsel, and the conservator of the person.
Well, right, exactly. Yeah. So anyone else that's an interested party. So I've also practiced in this area in California, no less. But so and that's the case. Is you'll find these interested parties that pop in. They're filing all kinds of petitions. They're responding to petitions, and if they're not the conservator, they're not the actual conservatee or whoever it is that's at the heart of the matter, then they're having to pay their own fees. So at least there's that.
At least there's that. So that's the fleets of lawyers, but she also has the business manager, but she also is paying a retainer to her father. So he's not being paid based on the work he's doing. He's just being paid a flat rate monthly that's more than her allowance. So there's a lot of money going out of this conservatorship estate.
It's millions. I don't know if you know how much, but it's millions a year.
It's multi-millions a year that's being spent, and people are like, why doesn't Britney's estate have more money? Well, this is why. This is an expensive process. And she had, they're charging themselves more for business manager or her prior business manager, Lou Taylor with TriStar Entertainment. Lou wanted a fee increase when Britney stopped performing and started refusing to perform, saying, well, we're doing all this work. I'm like, Britney's not working. What are you doing? What work? So James Spears just rubber stamped all of those expenses to his, it seems that there is a friendly relationship between him and Lou Taylor. So there's a lot of money going out. And this fight between Rosengart and James Spears is heating up. And now TMZ is reporting that somebody maybe took Britney's dogs and police have been called to her house twice. And she's being investigated for striking her maid or knocking the phone out of the maid's hand. And
the nudie pictures it looks like
a lot of the photos on
same playbook.
Instagram.
Is this the 2008 playbook that, look, Britney's spiraling, she's out of control, and
we can't leave yet. Now's not the right time. Look at everything that's happening. So it seems that according to TMZ, Britney feels that her dad is behind this. If that's true, we'll see it in court documents, because Rosengart has asked the court to immediately remove James Spears for Britney's well-being. And now there's this absolute affront in the media that Britney is spiraling and she is assaulting maids allegedly, and she's posting all these random videos and strange videos and then posting them and taking them down and posting them and taking them down. But it's still not clear she has control over her own social media. So if the conservatorship is trying to paint her like she's crazy, they will argue that in court. And it's very, very interesting to see it all kind of spiral out, because all the media headlines when James Spears's motion was filed, his motion said, I agree to step down and I agree to cooperate with the transition once all these things are done. All of the headlines were Britney is free. James Spears resigns. Britney is free. Britney is free. It's like,
not quite.
I also used James Spears resigned, but I put a question mark after it because it is what it is. But he didn't resign. He said, I want to get paid. And his lawyers want to get paid. So they're still in the middle of a fight. There's a court date coming up at the end of September that's going to be very interesting. They're supposed to deal with the 12th accounting. They're supposed to deal with this motion to remove. I am very concerned that the judge is going to punt.
What's the date of the hearing?
September 29th.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
What's the total bill on so far over the 13 years? Curious.
Oh, I haven't totaled up all the accountings. I mean, they're each one of them's millions. So, hundreds of millions of dollars.
I mean, I'm trying to think of this. Like, would she be like Rihanna level money right now if she didn't have all this?
I mean, she's got licensing deals, the tours. I mean, she made so much money on that Vegas residency, and the perfume line and others. So I can't imagine that it wouldn't be more than the estimated $60 million that they say that they have. Her dad's side's argument is always she was in legal mess and her estate was financially in the toilet when they took over. So they're saying $60 million is a win.
I'm sure he was helping that right along.
Yeah.
But his finances are in good shape.
I mean, he's making quite a lot of money.
Well, I can understand from a strategic perspective too, though, that I'm thinking about Rosengart and how he's first, just trying to get Jamie Spears removed before he tries to go for ending the conservatorship at all. I mean, if in fact there is a connection between Jamie Spears and TMZ, that can be one reason to just get him out before you try to go for it. There's also the possibility that, whoever replaces Jamie as a conservator would be somebody that's a little bit more friendly, a little bit more amenable to negotiation, that they can do things in a way that wouldn't require this massive fight and more legal fees and more angst and more everything. So I definitely understand the strategy of wanting to take things one step at a time, as much as it makes people incredibly impatient.
It's what should happen. The judge, Rosengart, is not just playing to the judge, but also playing to what is likely to happen. After 13 years, he can make a motion to remove. It's just going to be denied, which could be demoralizing to his client. I think his client has twin goals of getting her father out from in charge of her money and then working towards making the conservatorship less restrictive. Yeah. I think those goals can be reached by tackling one thing at a time and not he's so far been very gentle in his language about holding the court's feet to the fire. And I think that that's also strategic. And there will come a time when he's like, no, this court's allowed this to go on long enough. We're just not quite there yet. And the person they've recommended for the replacement conservator of the estate is someone with a forensic accounting background who works in front of that judge regularly. So the judges, they've picked someone the judge is already aware of, that has a background that's a professional fiduciary, that does this regularly and has a forensic accounting background. So they took all the objections away from the court. It's like, but Your Honor, you know him. Look, you like him. Remember him? You like him. You know him. No need for objections. We can just transition this. I was very disappointed in her court-appointed attorney because in November, the court overruled the dad's objections to having Bessemer Trust come in as a co-conservator. Dad was trying to keep them from getting the books and keep them from really looking at the paperwork. And I kept saying, this is a good thing. Someone else looking at the money is a great thing. Let's figure out what's going on with the money. Follow the money first. And her attorney did not file the order for the court to sign until the end of June. It was signed on June 30th. And on July 1st, after Britney spoke on June 23rd, Bessemer withdrew. And so they never got the books. They never got to look because her attorney from November to June was ordered to file the order with the court. The order saying literally Bessemer Trust has been appointed as co-conservator for the court to sign. Didn't file the order with the court.
This is part of why I was arguing. I did not feel like she had anyone really representing her.
Yep.
That is court appointed, whatever. Like it sounds like, was it Rosenbaum, that this guy may actually be swinging for her.
Rosengart absolutely is. And Rosengart has a celebrity-focused practice, but is a former prosecutor. Right. So Rosengart is in a position to not only deal with this, but is also going to have a firm that's media savvy as well, where the court-appointed attorney just did not seem to be savvy in that way.
Well, and a lot of these issues, I think, that have to do with her accounting, with how she makes money and how she's spending money, a lot of that has to do with just life in the entertainment industry. And if you don't have a foot in that world, it would be so hard as a normal, elder law attorney to try to wade into those waters and figure out what's up and what's down.
Right. And particularly like as a muggle to look at this and be like, no, that's not reasonable, because she objected to nothing over 11 years, to look at it and go, oh, maybe that is too much for business management. Oh, maybe it is unusual that the conservator of the person and the estate is negotiating himself into the contracts. Her dad was negotiating a percentage for himself on her performance contracts. How is that not a conflict that anybody was like, hey, he's approving all these contracts and negotiating benefit in for him? It's bananas to me, but her attorney didn't look at it.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yep. What was her connection? How did Britney end up with Rosengart as an attorney? Did she know him before, or was he sort of recommended, known in the industry?
It's not been published in the media how he was found. I have asked around those that I still know in LA, and it seemed that members of Britney's team were asking around to see who was amenable to coming on. And I also got the sense that lawyers were reaching out to the conservator of the person's attorney and saying, hey, just so you know, we're interested. Because Britney had been asking the conservator of the person via text, and those were all published in court, can you help me pick an attorney? And she said, no, that's a conflict. But it seems, she said, I can try to help facilitate it. And then she said, I can try to get the court to appoint a guardian ad litem to help you hire an attorney. And it seemed that Rosengart, I don't know if he connected through the conservator of the person's attorney or through her mother's attorneys, but somehow he was connected to them. I'm not surprised that savvy attorneys in LA were reaching out to the attorneys, both the conservator of the person and Britney's mom.
That's a little bit of a tough line to walk, because that starts to sound like solicitation of services, and that is not allowed under the California rules of conduct. If I'm not mistaken.
No, you're not mistaken. You're not mistaken at all. But I think it's, our firms, I know that Britney's looking for an attorney. Our firm's capable of handling this.
I mean, I guess if they go through like a secondhand route, maybe that makes it a little bit less fishy. But rather than just coming up to her on the street themselves, being like, "Hey, I'll represent you,"
And
you're an ambulance and I'll chase you.
Speculation, but also her attorney did file a motion to resign. So if that was done after this point, it was filed with court. It was well known that he was resigning. So I think, I mean, not that look, California has let so much happen when we're looking at the attorneys. I just wouldn't be surprised if the other lawyers were like, hey, these are recommendations that we have. But we were told Britney doesn't have a phone. We saw text messages to her conservator of the person saying, I don't know how to find a lawyer. Can you help me? And the conservator of the person saying, no, we're going to get a guardian ad litem to help you. And then all of a sudden he was in court.
By the way, Eldon Banneling, you brought it up. If you hit that Viva will send you a bottle of maple syrup. No, but if you are in the gin market, my brother-in-law is a shareholder, owns a company called La Chaufferie, which is literally the boiler room in French, and it's a Granby gin. It's delicious. But and also just Eldon Banneling asked why I make all of my videos on the Viva PPC channel in French and in English. I didn't do it in the beginning. Quebec is 85% French as a province. It's 15% Allophone, so there's Anglo and other. Montreal is more like 50-50, but I want the message that I'm spreading on that channel to be shared among the French community, and it's a good excuse for me to practice my French. So I put
Isn't it a law you get to do French first?
No, it used to be back in the day. I mean, it's still something similar. French on public signage has to be nettement prédominant, markedly predominant. And on on items, they have to have English. They have to have French versions of ingredients and all the stuff on packaging. Is so much so, by the way, that in my practice, came across a client who was selling packaged goods, and they got in trouble with what they call the language police because it said OZ instead of whatever the French equivalent of ounces is. Once, I think it might be. Oh, I don't know what it is in French actually. Bottom line, that's how strict it has to be. So people do their repackaging to sell products in Quebec, but even if you have that metal stamp on a container that says ounces in English, you have to have the French version. So it becomes tedious and comical at times, but that is the Bill 101 that exists in
Do
Quebec.
Business contracts have to be in both then? Do you have to provide contracts in both?
There's a provision of law that says that the party has to expressly request that the contract be drafted in English. So you always get that as a sort of a par for the course standard clause. The parties have expressed that this be drafted in English. Otherwise, it could invalidate or cause problems on consumer contracts.
Interesting.
Wow.
It's a bizarre. I say bizarre. It's an interesting province. The law has been around for 40 years. Bill 101. It set up the language commission. Once upon a time, you couldn't put apostrophes in signage because apostrophe is strictly English. So you had all these things. Tim Hortons is a good example. Tim Hortons used to be apostrophe S. But in order for them to have uniform labeling, marketing, packaging across Canada, they dropped the apostrophe. So it's just Tim Hortons, which is lawful in Quebec. But yeah, so it's a deterrent for some to do business in Quebec because it does definitely increase costs.
Interesting.
Kind of reminds me of all of the labeling in California, that all the disclaimers that you have to put on pretty much everything.
When you walk into a building and it's got the Prop 65 warning.
Yeah, exactly. This is probably going to give you cancer.
I did a video on that, like way back in the early stages of the vlog. I went to Walmart or Winners, bought a backpack, and it said, for California residents only, this product may cause cancer. I was like, it's a backpack. I'm not eating it. And then I was like, what the hell is this? And then I had to go look it up. And yeah, that's whatever that idiotic
Prop
law
65
is that you have to put on anything that contains known carcinogens that it can cause cancer, even if it's a backpack. And it says, for California residents.
As long as you're not in California, it won't cause cancer.
I was just about to say, it's fun fact, only Californians are vulnerable to this. So, it's only for Californians.
And then the composition system in California is comical and bananas, but it definitely increased cost of doing business more often than not. It also is very interesting to get big money behind like criminal justice initiatives and what have you. And you get these wonky propositions and people are like, wait a second, what do you mean that this proposition did that? It's like, y'all voted for it. Nobody really understood the fine print of how this was all going to work, but y'all thought it had like a great idea on the advertisements.
It illustrates the exact problem with diluting the meaning of words until they have no meaning whatsoever. Now you have the same warning on a pack of cigarettes that you have on a kid's school backpack. I mean, I guess if you smoke both of them, you're going to have a problem, but this is what call everyone an ist or an ob, and then it loses all meaning. Slap a label that it causes cancer on everything. Nobody's going to take anything seriously, even when they should. Right. So Yeah, that was.
It's like when you get notifications on your phone. You know, you get 2 notifications in a day, and you notice it. If you get 200, then you stop noticing it because you get desensitized to the buzzing.
Can we talk about Amber Alerts, by the way?
I was just.
We're on phones.
Oh
my God!
I was just going to say in Canada, in Quebec, when the pandemic or the lockdown, I forget what it was. I think it was the curfew. They sent out what is the Amber Alert sound, you know, an emergency alert on everyone's cell phone, warning, curfew in effect. And I was like, great, you bastards just lost any goodwill that I once had with the Amber Alert, because every time I hear it now, I was like, oh, what stupid thing is the government telling me that I've lost in terms of freedoms now, when it's actually Amber Alerts? But it's people don't think.
We came back to California to visit before school started here in Tennessee. And when we got off the plane at the airport, it happened to coincide with an alert coming out about rising COVID rates and where to go get vaccinated. But it used the Amber Alert system and the Amber Alert sound. So everyone's getting off of planes and everyone's phone's going off. And my kid's like, what is happening? I'm like, I don't know. And then we looked at it and we're like, oh, COVID rates are rising. Go get back. Okay, great. But I was actually concerned when everyone's phones are going off that there was a public safety emergency at the airport. And I guess that's a debatable point when a bunch of people are traveling to LAX.
Even the Amber Alerts, though, are driving me crazy because I'll get an Amber Alert. Have you seen this car? Last seen 6 hours away on the other side of the state. It's like, come on now. Yeah, there's got to be a little bit of a reasonable cone of surveillance. Not, just because they could be important. But if every time I look, it's like, well, that's 3 hours from me. That's 4 hours from me. Like, how am I going to see this now? Can't you tighten the effects a little bit? So, I mean, we
have the same problem. And we get Amber Alerts for Ontario, which is, it could be upwards of 10 hours away, depending on where you're talking. But someone asked, has the Amber Alert ever worked? Where was it? I think
it's in the chat.
Yes, I think it has. I think
there have been a few cases. Then the question is just, did it work because of the Amber Alert, or did it work because they got to the right people and not just blasted it to, a million people who are not relevant to the message? But no, it's look, it depends where you are. In California, when you have, I don't know, how many people are in California? 38 million? What's the population in California?
I think it's upwards of 40 million.
When you have 40 million people, I can imagine you're going to be getting Amber Alerts often enough where you will, in fact, tune them out. And then the question is, how do you make sure that people pay attention to, the ones they need to pay attention to?
I mean, I think there's the equivalent now that I've moved to tornado warnings. Eventually, if you get too many warnings, people start to go, it's not really a serious warning. And then a tornado hits and everybody's like, damn it, what happened? Why is there a loss of life? And why have properties been smashed? And it's like, well, there was a warning. Everyone had their warnings off because there have been warnings going off for the last 3 days.
Emily, I mean, I say it's not funny. It's quite ironic. Same thing happened in Quebec one day where I was like, Weather Canada tweeted a tornado warning, but they had been tweeting them relatively often and in areas where we don't see tornadoes. And I just said, wow, this is great. Now even Weather Canada is trying to make everyone live in a state of fear. And then someone retweeted my tweet 6 hours later with a news article of someone who got killed when the tornado touched down in a place where we never get tornadoes. Right. Or maybe we do every so often. But no, I said like it is the problem when once you stop taking certain institutions seriously, you stop taking their messages seriously, and then it's the boy who cried wolf.
And it's hard. I mean, it's hard to be constantly vigilant about all things, constantly vigilant about COVID, constantly vigilant about your kids' mental health, it's hard to be vigilant about all of the things. And the thing is, I feel like our governments don't trust people to make good decisions for themselves and then be like, well, we warned you and you made a bad decision. Sorry. But it gets, where is the duty to warn versus how much it needs to be to not, overwhelm people? I'm lucky that here we have a Twitter account that is very snarky and very good with severe weather. And they're like, hey, we're looking at this tornado warnings for this entire county, but these are the areas we're seeing that are most concerning. That can change quickly. Stay by your radio, or you can probably go to sleep tonight. It's going to be fine. And it's that system, Nashville Severe Weather on Twitter, has been more helpful and more accurate than any of the other warnings that we get. So we just rely on them.
That's awesome. You bring up tornadoes, and yeah, it can be weird. I mean, the weirdest thing I ever had, I don't know, several years ago, we had an earthquake, for God's sake. in Virginia. And it was a legitimate, like 5, 6. I don't know what the levels were, but I mean, it felt all the way to DC and another area. Nobody in their entire lifetime had ever had an earthquake in this area. And I know that when I felt it, I was like, it was the weirdest thing I've ever had. And you're just sitting there like, yeah, that's old hat. But, and it wasn't like, you know, you see it in the movies where they just go, just shake it, shake it. It wasn't like that. It just felt like you were sort of swimming and drunk.
Rolling earthquakes are weird.
Yeah, those are the weirdest. I mean, growing up with them, to me, they're the most normal. You know, if I'm gonna rank, a natural disaster, that's probably gonna be one of my lowest ones. I mean, just growing up in California, right? But there are some that are weird. Those the ones that kind of start with a slow roll, like you think it's just like a semi driving up the street, and then you're like, oh no, actually everything is moving.
Yeah. The rolly ones always make me motion sick, like almost make me seasick. Where the jerky, shaky ones didn't. I'm happy to have moved away from earthquakes. Tornadoes are weird, but earthquakes were weird. When I went to college, because I went to college in Massachusetts, and we lived in giant towers at UMass. So I was on like the 18th floor, and big trucks would shake it, and I would wake up out of a dead sleep like, no, it's fine. It's not an earthquake. I don't need to be worried. But it took years for me to kind of wind that anxiety back. Whereabouts in California are you? If like general area, internet.
So right now I'm actually overseas, but I am from Orange County originally.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
I grew up.
And then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I grew up right by LAX. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Beach.
Yeah,
everybody knows where I was from.
Oh yeah, yeah. I went to undergrad in San Diego. So, and then eventually found my way out.
So Northridge was like an echo for y'all down in Orange County.
So I barely remember the Northridge earthquake. I can't remember if that was. Was that the one that was in the middle of the night? Yeah. Was it? Okay, so I do have memories of afterwards. This is kind of a funny random story. So I was very little. I think I was maybe like 4 or 5, maybe something like that. But young enough that I didn't quite understand like causal connections. I had previously, my parents had like told me to clean my room, and I didn't. And for some reason, when I woke up after that earthquake and we were watching all the devastation, for some reason, I asked my mom if the earthquake happened because I didn't clean my room. And she was like, yes.
That's normal.
Yes.
No.
She said, yes. Yeah. Clean your room or else this will happen.
Smart mom for sure. Now, did both of you have a culture shock leaving California and LA area?
Not really, because I also have a lot of half siblings that grew up in other parts of the country. So I did spend a bit of time traveling to see family and that kind of stuff. And then in college, I also studied abroad. So for leaving California and going to other states, not too much. I mean, there was always a difference. Obviously, traveling in winter was different. Especially like that was probably the biggest shock for me after growing up in Southern California. Really understanding like how to dress for winter, for real winter that you're not just going skiing for. But yeah, other than that.
Well, you have that now without naming where you are. You have that real winter now, correct?
Yeah, we do. And I lived in DC. Also, I lived in Texas during law school. So you know, I've had a little bit of diversity since then. Now,
so my family's from the East Coast, so we would visit the East Coast, but I hadn't lived there until I went to Massachusetts in college, and that I didn't realize that UGG boots were not actually winter footwear because I grew up on the beach where we just, I played water polo. And so you would swim and you would throw on your UGG boots and your big like Sherpa coat and be fine. Yeah. Not adequate footwear, not good on ice, very slippery, very stinky when it's wet. So that was a bit of a shock trying to figure it out. And I went to college, in the mid 90s. So it wasn't just hop on the internet and order a coat that's appropriate or a backpack whose zippers didn't freeze together. My hair would freeze after practice. I didn't know that was it. Like, I would pull on a beanie and walk out of the pool after getting changed, and my hair would freeze, and then you'd go to eat and it would melt all down your shirt. I was not prepared for Massachusetts at all. Nobody warned you. There wasn't.
Well, you should come.
What it is.
You should come to Quebec one of these days, where it's. Well, I mean, I don't know how cold the winters are where you guys are, but like here, -40, your nose freezes shut when you breathe into your nose.
Yeah.
You literally get frostbite. It's so cold. We can do the Impimba effect pretty much whenever we want. But Xerosifer. It came from the save the children mentality of the past few generations. Those that have had parents that protected their kids from every bump in the road do not want personal responsibility and want the government to be their parents. And with that said, hold on. Listen to this soundbite from our dear Justin Trudeau.
You deserve a government that's going to continue to say, get vaccinated. And you know what? If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people and put them at risk.
If you do not eat your broccoli, there will be.
When you're talking about somebody who wants to pretend that they're my parent and simultaneously be the worst parent on earth, the government that we have in place now is proven them to be exactly what Xerosifer said. Yeah, no, you gotta protect everyone from their own good, make them feel safe. But anyways, I just want everyone to hear that soundbite, because that is nothing shy of someone saying, if you have medical conditions or religious beliefs that allow you, that don't, that cause you not to want to get the vaccine, you're not flying and you're not getting on public transport. We're being whisked back into different ugly areas.
Yeah. I don't understand how there's no exception along those lines. I mean, because that's a massive disability discrimination, and religious discrimination as well.
He said if you don't, we're talking about federal employees. He says if you don't have a legitimate, and I'm using legitimate because I don't know what that means, legitimate medical excuse, there will be consequences. So that legitimate medical excuse, in my mind, seems to exclude religious exemptions. We've lost it here in Canada. We never. It seems that we place much less weight on our fundamental freedoms than you guys do in the States. Freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of religion, and we're giving.
I want to talk about that.
Well, can we talk about freedoms to make money how you want to on OnlyFans?
I was wondering if we were going to talk about that.
I want to go on the freedom thing for a quick second though, because I had a chat with Nate about this, and somebody's asking if I'm yellow yet. Not yet, but David's trying really hard.
Check it in the mail. Let me just say one word, people.
No, we're good on that. No, Nate and I were talking about.
I'm the one dropping the F-bombs. If we go yellow, it's my fault.
Oh no, they don't care about that. YouTube's fine with that.
No, they really don't care about that, do they?
They care about Fauci juice. Let's just say that. A lot. Fauci juice and the beer bug.
You're tempting the algorithm.
Fauci juice.
Fauci juice, yes.
What the heck is that? I mean,
it's the other word for the.
Okay, fine.
The thingy. That's some legal mindset.
The thing.
The other word for the thingy.
Hey, you use Fauci juice to treat the beer bug.
Oh my goodness! I don't know. Something might be wrong with me because I didn't go to where it went. I went somewhere else, and I'm
gosh, he went back to the OnlyFans conversation.
Oh wow! Bada boom ba.
Perfect.
Okay, I want to talk about rights and privileges, because that's something I think everybody is getting wrong in my non-lawyer mind, but I'll stick with it, that it's called a Bill of Rights for a reason, and that those are not written to grant them to you as a privilege, even though people are calling them liberties. Sorry. I was in the military. In the military, when, let's say, a naval vessel pulls into port and the people are let out to go hang around the other people in town, that's called being on liberty. That is something that is granted to you from a higher authority. I'm arguing the Bill of Rights is not a grant. It is an acknowledgement. It is saying, no, we're not saying you have the freedom of speech. We are acknowledging that you have the freedom of speech.
It is evident.
You've always had that.
In fact.
So where do you guys stand on that? Because I think it's a very significant term to, when you call them liberties, then you already are saying, we're giving you these liberties. We're Trudeau and that type. So we're allowing you to have that until we don't want you to have that. Whereas it should be in the stance of, no, that's a right.
Yeah, well, the Constitution, generally speaking, is a document that obviously establishes our government, but it it's intended to be a restrictive document. It's supposed to say, this is what the government is not allowed to do. This is the extent to which the government is able to do certain things. This is who's allowed to do it. Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, et cetera, et cetera. And then everything else is up to the citizens. So I definitely agree with that, with that characterization.
There's something of I don't know offhand what it is. There's a concept of privileges where the government can. I wish it's not fresh in my mind, but there is a concept of privileges in law where you can, certain things which are not deemed to be rights can be granted under certain conditions.
Driving is a privilege. Driving is not a right. You can take someone's right to drive away if they do certain things, commit certain crimes, break certain laws, aren't of a certain age. Driving is a privilege. There are certain things that are rights. First Amendment speech is a right. You cannot just take it away.
No, that sounds like a mom of teenagers right there, or soon to be teenagers.
Having a cell phone is not an inalienable right. It is a privilege. I will take it away.
Now we have the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. All of the rights and freedoms set out in that charter are subject to reasonable limitations that can be justified in a free and democratic society. And now we're living in real time where the infinitesimal risk that someone comes back on a plane, tests negative for COVID, but nonetheless has COVID and tests positive within the next 2 weeks, can justify forced detention in a government facility. I say once that's the threshold for violating our rights guaranteed by the Charter under the first section, we have no meaningful rights. And I think a lot of Canadians might be waking up to that fact right now. My only fear is that a lot of Canadians are so scared, they do believe that that is a reasonable limitation of a right in a free and democratic society. But at what point, when you restrict rights, do you cease being a free and democratic society? I think we're getting close.
Fear is a big part of all of this. Like the fear of being shunned from society is a very real and big fear. And it's, again, my 13-year-old, we have been talking about kind of the books he read last year, and he is not really on social media, and I'm very lucky as a parent. He thinks TikTok is stupid. He's sick of seeing his classmates walking down the hall like this. He's not about it, but that's not my parenting. That's just who he is as a human. But we talk about kind of the shunning. He's like, no, I think my classmates would die if someone took them off of social media. Like, they're so deeply connected to it. And I know adults that feel the same way, that shunning from social media or society is such a great fear that they are like, okay, fine, I will acquiesce to whatever because I don't want this consequence that is very real and big. And you see the videos of people freaking out because they're being filmed in a negative interaction. And that is the fear of not their own behavior, but the fear of now this will go viral and I will lose my job and people will be outside my home. And this is what's going to happen. This public shaming. Like, we've gone back to the town square throwing tomatoes at people.
It's not just shaming. What about Antifa? They'll attack you. I mean, remember that there was a council member who was voting on whether to defund or not defund the police. And Antifa was outside the guy's house, gathering. It's like, no, you were there to congratulate him and say, good job for practicing your, and covering for your constituencies and representing. No, I don't think they were. I think they were very much sending a clear message that we want you to do something. Or, we can even have a politician like a Maxine Waters who says, I expect a certain verdict.
Or violence. A certain verdict or violence.
Yeah.
No, what I'm just amazed about is in Canada at the very least, and it seems I think in Australia they're not quite as fearful of the virus as they are of the government, which is how they've been sufficiently suppressed into silence. But I see a lot of people who, when I went door to door, and I repeat, I'm not saying this anecdote to ostracize anybody. It's something that you have to work with to actually overcome. So I was outside, someone else was outside doing their gardening, asked me to put on a mask, but we were 3 meters apart from each other, outdoors, asked me to put on a mask, and then would not listen to a word I have to say. It's either irrational fear that has been ingrained into the psyche that is governing all their actions, or it is, in fact, the political, I don't want to say power trip, but the political litmus test. Put on your mask, and then I'm going to know if we're allies or enemies. But the fear levels I've seen being driven into people is explaining a lot of what they're putting up with now, because they think it's going to provide them some form of security if they just do what the government what Justin Trudeau's telling us to do.
Well,
I hate to say it, it's mass hypnosis. We literally, we are going through the world's largest Milgram experiment, and it is a kind of a mass hypnosis of propaganda we haven't seen since, shall we say, the 40s in Europe, since we can't say other names.
You cannot.
I'm going to have to leave in a few minutes, guys, because I got something I want to, but I don't want to end this. I'm just going to say, when I duck out in about 4 minutes, don't judge me.
Well, so we'll wrap it up with you, and get on the very important right we are all about to discuss, and that's the right to porn on OnlyFans.
Oh, you don't. So I will bow out of this because I've already shown a propensity to naughty thoughts when it comes to things.
Don't bow out of this. I'm so curious what you think about payment processors just being like, we don't want to process. I have a slippery slope concern, but we don't want to process payments for that.
It's the same thing as going after donors and blocking people's ability to fundraise. It is the what Dan Bongino referred to as, parallel economic systems, where they're trying to coerce through economic means people into certain content creation. Why fans only became an issue, I don't know, but I'm not particularly familiar with fans only.
I think it was
evidenced by the fact that you keep saying fans only.
What is it?
Only fans.
All right.
It was perfect, but it's interesting because we just had this article not too long ago in BuzzFeed with Trisha Paytas talking about making $800,000 a month, and at the height of her OnlyFans making well over $1 million a month just on that platform, not to include YouTube and other things.
Which, have you seen? I mean, I'm not trying to be. I find it very unusual. She's very. I'm surprised that she's that popular on OnlyFans.
I'm not.
Who's the person? I'm just going to go do some research.
Trisha Paytas.
Trisha. What's her last name?
I love that we live in such different worlds of YouTube, David, that you're like, who?
Trisha
Paytas, Paytas. You can scroll the photos on her Twitter, and you will get a sense for the adult type of content she made.
I'm gonna go do that to prepare for my next. I'm doing an interview now for the political stuff, so that's gonna be at 1:30. Maybe I'll do a little research before or after. But Trisha Paytas, okay.
After.
I have my
after.
All right, guys, enjoy. Eric, we'll do it again. Alita, Emily, Eric.
Yeah, sounds great.
Thank you.
Good to see
you.
See you, man. Okay, and I have an article that I don't know if it's relevant or not. I literally just saw it this morning. Somebody else shared it, and it may be relevant to what's going on with OnlyFans. It's saying that there was potential money laundering and underage problems. And I think those words specifically. Well, I don't know. I mean, I do not know if there is, definite CP allegations there. There could be a legal aspect of it. I don't want to, rule that out.
P-Hub, they said the same thing, and P-Hub did an internal audit and said there is more CP materials on Facebook than there are on the Hub.
Well, of course.
Wow.
Okay. I believe it, and that's probably true. And I think Twitter has everybody beat, according to Eliza Blue. But you know what? Since we're talking about porn, we have to have somebody else join us.
Hey,
Nate. Did you start your OF yet? Is Nate disappointed? Is Nate like, damn it, this was the next phase. This was the 100K celebration.
Yeah.
Was OF.
No. I'm happy that finally made it to that number. And yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that just kind of happened.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's funny because I've been going back watching you guys 100K stream. So I watched Viva's like 4 times. We pulled out the silver play button with the kids, and then I watched yours. So
it was fun.
I can't wait till
hitting the 100 and then the play button are 2 totally different streams, because the play button we'll get to eventually.
Yeah, they for some reason I think YouTube thinks my account is fake or something, because it's been like two weeks almost, and they keep saying we're not sure yet. So I'm like,
oh, that's kind of common. I wouldn't worry about that, Nate.
Yeah. I'm not that bad on YouTube. I'm not as bad as Viva is. Viva's a real wild man.
He preceded all that. He already got his play button.
Sorry, Nate, are you audio only? I keep waiting for your video to start, and I'm like, thank you. I just needed to close that loop in my brain.
Hold on, there it is. Can you guys see me now?
There you are.
There. Oh, you look good too.
Looking good, man.
Oh, thanks. I'm here.
Where are you? That's a cool room.
I'm in Las Vegas.
Nice.
This is the.
I like that
the
mural.
I don't see the wheel outside.
Oh, very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So
I love the mural on the wall. That's just cool.
Oh, yeah, that looks like a really cool hotel.
It's a great background. I mean,
it's like, that's funny. My background's better now that I'm not at home. I got like a
I mean, you can take some pics now. You've got some inspiration.
That's why I'm gonna green screen this. I'm gonna take it and put it on my green screen. To take
you should. You should. That'd be hilarious. You're like, yeah, this is Nate on the road again.
I just never went home.
So what were
we were talking about OnlyFans and our right to pay people to see them naked.
Yeah, it's funny because it's it's for me, it's always so funny to see the shift in political ideologies. Like when it comes to Twitter banning conservatives scream, "Oh my God, this," and liberals usually say, "Oh, Facebook's private party, that thing." Now with OnlyFans, they're doing the same thing to the people on the left. Now all my lefty friends are saying, "Oh, this is wrong. They should be stopped. Reform 230." I'm like, but just last week you were saying they're private companies. So it's interesting how the political, depending on your political aspirations, whether this is wrong or not. So
hey, but if we can get everybody to unite on Section 230, maybe it's a good thing.
It's like, look, we told you, slippery slope. Slippery slope at some point. It always boggles my mind, and maybe this is the lawyer in all of us, but when people can't see, okay, I don't care about this position, but how could this thing affect a position that I do care about? And being able to extrapolate, oh, I can see how this thing that I don't really care about, like, because I don't care about, Twitter banning conservatives or whatever. But I could see where I could be really upset if Twitter were banning liberal voices or banning the Taliban because they have a right to Twitter or whatever it is. People can't extrapolate that. That level of critical thinking seems to be generally missing at the moment.
Maybe just take everybody's names off of it.
Right.
Let's take the incident and say, person A, person B, person C are banned from platform A, platform B, and platform C for activity that nobody cares about or whatever. And stop the whole team BS, because that's what it really is tribal. It's like, oh, it's happening to them. Snicker, snicker, snicker.
Yep.
And both sides are guilty as hell. I mean, they really are. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and hold it up, because as soon as right now, I think the conservative side or right or whatever it is in general a little bit better on free speech, but only because they're down. As soon as they get the power, they're going to be swinging that hammer at everybody around them. They've done it before. Why wouldn't they do it again? It's like, oh, we got power. Now we consolidate it.
Wasn't the Patriot Act part of that? The conservatives, they were listening to everybody's phone calls to protect us. That was the Patriot Act, right?
Well, right. Yes, and that's one of the two inroads, as I put it. And Emily's right. She goes, yeah, they always are going to say CP, and if they don't say CP, they'll say terrorism.
Or, I mean, with some of these financial processors, they're saying high-risk transactions, transactions and money laundering. I prosecuted a number of money laundering cases that dealt with PayPal.
Oh, I'm sure.
If people want to launder money, they're going to launder money. It doesn't. Right. They're going to find a platform. Platforms can have stopgaps in it, but I think it's interesting that we're seeing OnlyFans that gave adult entertainers a place to create in a safe way, and then we're also getting the trial of R. Kelly going on at the same time with woman after woman after woman talking about the exploitation that happens, and I'm like, right, but why aren't we connected? Like, I'm just so frustrated with the whole thing. I think telling people what they can and cannot spend their money on is stupid.
OnlyFans too wasn't just adult entertainers. It was a lot of, and I could be wrong, but there were a lot of women who lost their jobs during COVID and things like that wound up having to do or choosing to do OnlyFans to make ends meet. It's
not just adult, but it is synonymous with that because it's the most popular thing on the platform. And particularly creators like, Trisha Paytas, who has a presence on other media, going to OnlyFans and making tons and tons of money. You saw what is her name from the Vlog Squad that just made $4 million launching her OnlyFans like a month ago. So I think it's hilarious. It's like, oh, well, launched it at the right time. And now you can just be like, oh, that was fun. And now we're out. It's like no commitment to providing more content.
Wow.
So
I mean, I've often wondered though about the people that do provide that kind of content that, if something like this were to happen, for example, and they no longer are able to do that, what do they do after that? Because how do you go to a normal job after that? Like you're applying for a job somewhere and they're like, I know you, like how, like, I don't know. I just, that's always something that
there's probably other options out there who do provide adult material that can facilitate and give a soft landing.
That they've already taken payment processing off of the hub. So
really?
Hub no longer has payment.
So it'll be Bitcoin then. We're going to be seeing all adult Bitcoin. And you know what? By the way, I'm only being partially facetious. Porn is what gets things moving forward. Porn,
with everything, with all technology, it is.
Yep.
It is the adult content, and I think that it's time for everyone who is a really prolific creator on OnlyFans to start clipping stuff down and NFTing everything you've ever created, since it's going to be off the platform in a month. NFT all of your moments, Trisha Paytas, all of the squirting, just NFT them all. Yes, Don. Yes, NFTs for porn. I think that's where this needs to go.
And Bitcoin will be the or whomever.
But they've got till October, so we've got they've got like a month and a half to plan. Just go for it. Go for it.
I mean, they could also just take the $800,000 or whatever a month that they're making, throw it on Bitcoin, and then that'll skyrocket. Anyway, that's my thought on that.
For like Trisha Paytas, it's not. They're going to shift. They're on TikTok and wherever, and are going to make plenty of money. But for other creators, people who left their jobs during COVID, people who are counting on this, it's the same as having a YouTube channel that is your primary source of income. All of a sudden is gone. It's why all creators, it's just a reminder to all creators, you can't just be on one platform. You have to be on multiple platforms. You have to be connected to your audience on multiple platforms. And you can't make all of your income on one platform because it could be gone very quickly. And for all these creators, here's the secondary problem I see is the creators who weren't savvy with their money. Tax time is going to come. A lot of people are like, oh, I can make it the next month. Oh, I can make it the next month. If they weren't putting aside money for taxes and now they're going to by October, you're not making any more money, then what?
Oh, God.
Yeah,
then
a lot of people.
Yikes.
One thing with the OnlyFans thing is that one thing I think a lot of people are missing is it changed the porn market dramatically. And what I mean by that is that before, like Mia Khalifa, for instance, she said while she was doing porn, she was getting like $1,000 a scene. So she in total made $12,000. While her videos got billions of views and made millions of dollars, right? She only got $11,000 or $12,000. But in OnlyFans, those same actresses and actors now can make that money. They get 80% of that revenue. So it kind of freed them from that industry in that sense. I was kind of forcing them to go back to that, because now you were doing this, you were getting all this, but now you have to go back to that and back to that type of thing.
Well, there's not as much to go back to because now you can't make money on P-Hub either. Like there's not a lot of places to go back to, which is going to create a new marketplace for exploitation of adult actors and adult workers.
I don't know. It depends. I mean, that's why I'm saying that the Bitcoin and crypto may wind up coming in, and I don't know. It depends, because if you can't block them from performing and whatever it might be, you can block them on the payment processors and all that. And that's what I'm saying. This actually may help push everything to the mainstream. Bitcoin has not really invaded the mainstream. Yes, it's in our conscience and we're thinking about it, but this could do it. This could all of a sudden knock PayPal on its ass. Their own decisions could push Bitcoin.
Bitcoin ATM the other day. I saw a Bitcoin ATM. I was like shocked. So you're right.
I've seen a couple of them, but not in Tennessee. Not since I left California. There were a few in like restaurants when I was in California.
Interesting. I haven't seen an ATM for it. But by the way, that last super chat was that was my brother. He's a jokester.
Oh,
he was making a joke. Yeah, that one.
Nice.
He's just
I did a Law Nerds after Andy. I did a Law Nerds After Dark that was sponsored by Adam and Eve, talking about a very interesting trademark case involving something called Ringo.
Did you really?
Yeah, it's on my channel. It's called After Dark. It's that, but it's talking about the Ringo trademark fight over an adult toy and Ringo star.
Adam and Eve still is around?
Oh yeah, and the Ringo that's on their site is one of their best sellers, so it was a natural partnership. They sponsor quite a lot of creators in the commentary space.
Are you going to do ASMR for Adam and Eve?
My ASMR channel tends to be clean because it's historic documents, and I know a lot of people that use it for their kids who do better with auditory learning. So no, I'll keep the Law Nerds After Dark on mine. Though I had always joked about starting an OF to read smutty fan fiction.
There's a market.
Yeah, and so it was like, well, it's not explicit video, so maybe. It's a dream of mine, reading smutty fan fiction with corpse.
Eric Coyne. Oh Lord.
So what you're saying is it's a dream to get paid for a hobby.
Yes. Yes. I'm fascinated by the whole fan fiction world. I'm fascinated by the copyright issues that arise in the fan fiction world, and like fan fiction authors ripping each other off, but you can't really copyright it because all the characters are based on other people's works. It's a fascinating space.
Isn't 50 Shades of Grey out of the fan fiction world?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Twilight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is crazy because it overshadowed
the fan fiction that's popular. Not nearly as good.
All right, Zero Cipher. Thank you so much. Zero. I'm probably killing the name, which is terrible, but I'm going to say Zero Cipher. In my opinion, social media sites are the issue. OnlyFans is a social media. Porn social media, I guess. I don't know. You get too many people using you, get bad actors, which causes crackdowns. The only way to be safe is to launch things yourself, but that requires more work. And by the way, good on that. Not only Bitcoin, but it could be the whole blockchain. There are multiple things going on right now with encryption and whatnot that hopefully can't be shut down. Maybe some of the problems are just going to resolve themselves, and Telegram will get large enough, even though that's got some problems. Or locals. Oh, by the way, unstructured.locals.com, nathalawyer.locals.com, somedaylegalbytes.locals.com. She's almost there. No, you got to
I have. Okay, yeah. I have to make the community. I literally just made an account.
Right. So she's on her way, and it'll probably be called legalbytes.locals.com, and pronounce it on mine and Nate's or whatever. I'm sure that we'll be cool with that. Hopefully, these alternate paths will just eliminate. Like I'm okay. Do we have to have 100,000 followers on Twitter or 10? I'm perfectly happy having a couple thousand on on locals or whatever. And I think maybe that's good. Maybe a little bit more splintering and tightening down the audiences. Have any of you read 1,000 True Fans? It was an essay in Wired magazine several years back by Kevin Kelly.
So yeah.
I think it's the future in many ways and very far ahead of time. Essentially, if you have 1,000 fans who really love everything you do and buy every t-shirt, or everything you do, that you can make a living.
Yeah.
And, do a great job just taking care of those 1,000 fans. You don't have to have, the biggest scale in the world. So maybe that'll be good. Maybe we'll have a lot more channels that are a lot smaller, but more active, more intimate, or in the case of Nick's friend Steve, more Nate's friend Steve, more culty, or
oh no.
Eric's dying to go there. Well, I guess we've exhausted the interesting OnlyFans conversation, but even when we talk about going off platform, if people wanted to create their own websites, then you get the problem with if you try to create a Shopify store, will Shopify allow you to do it? Will a payment processor allow you to do it, or will they eventually shut you down? When I moved states, I moved all my business banking, and they would not create a business bank account for me online. I had to go in, which is odd. I had to go in with a bank that I've used forever and be like, no, this is who I am. They're like, we need to know more about what you do online. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, is any of it adult content? And I was like, I was looking at the dude like, do you mean porn? Because on YouTube, it is adult content. I curse a lot, but it's not like adult content. Like what? And yeah, it was a whole thing. And Chase Bank was very concerned that money coming in from Google was adult content on YouTube. It was very interesting to me. I was like, oh, here we go. All right.
I wonder if they just get extra heat that they have to worry about.
I don't know. It's
like maybe their regulators
high risk.
Yeah. I mean, like if the risk that they run for any of that is that they have to really go through those checks themselves, because otherwise they'll be raked through the coals. Yep.
It's very interesting. So it's very interesting to me seeing the way that this is is playing out.
I gotta run real quick. I'll see you. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll send you guys links to my 100K celebration if you guys are available. But I have to run right now. Take care, guys.
Nate.
Yeah, have fun.
Vegas, Nate.
Bye-bye.
So
I love doing this show because of that. I don't know who's going to drop in, or I'll send a link or whatever. I just think it's so much fun.
We're around. It's just very, very, it's interesting times. And I think anyone who's like, whatever, I don't care about porn. I'm like, no, but when we start telling people what they can spend their money on, it starts to concern me quite a lot. And I'm confused that it's not concerning to everyone.
Well, it's, first they came over and over and over and over. That is an absolute accidental double entendre, and I love it. I wish I could have planned that, because it is so perfect. Oh my, yes, there is a poem called First They Came.
Sure. And then I saw Emily's reaction, and I was like, oh,
are you yellow now?
Oh my God. I wish I thought of that. It's like the best ones in the world are.
No, you should just go with it. Just yes, absolutely. Yes. I planned that. Yes, I am brilliant.
Yes, and then clip it on your clip it onto locals.
All right. Well, this has been amazing. Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was so nice to get to chat with you both. It's so nice. Legal Bytes and I haven't gotten to meet on the interwebs yet. So.
I know. I'm so happy that we finally got to virtually meet.
Me too. And we will have to do it again with news plus pop culture, which is really what we did today. News plus pop culture. There's so much to talk about.
Oh God, yes. God, yes. So
and there's going to be a lot in September. We'll have to do a Britney stream for sure.
Oh, you two should definitely. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
everybody, please hit the like. You know where to find Legal Bytes Media. Emily D. Baker. Obviously, everybody knows Viva Frei. But if you're not subscribed, everyone, please consider doing so. Until later.